Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new video on the Pole Position YouTube channel. In this video we are going to be reviewing the Turkish Grand Prix and of course reflecting on the fact that Lewis Hamilton is now a 7-time world champion. So really, without further ado, let's get into the video. So of course I think everybody knew this was eventually going to come, that Lewis Hamilton is now a 7-time world champion, equaling the great Michael Schumacher. Now obviously a few years ago when he joined Mercedes, I think everybody around the world was a bit sceptical when he moved from the great car that McLaren had to joining Mercedes, and obviously with them not doing so well at the time. But as we've said for the last few years now, what a move that was. And obviously, they have been dominant ever since. This weekend was Hamilton's 73rd Mercedes win, which just shows how dominant they've been since he joined the team. Mercedes have won 7 in a row in terms of constructors now. So yeah, it's phenomenal. It really is. Mercedes have done a fantastic job, and so has Lewis Hamilton this year. Qualified 6th. Bottas qualified 9th. We'll get on to obviously Bottas's race and a bit in a minute. But in terms of Lewis Hamilton, started 6th. Didn't think he was going to make it that far. I think a few laps in. He looked like he was struggling on the tyres, as was everybody in the race. It was manic, but it was good manic for people to be watching at home. I certainly enjoyed the race throughout. Seeing different people in the lead throughout the race, and different trying to make overtaking manoeuvres. At some points it was a little bit monotonous because there was only one racing line. It's not like they could go out off the racing line and try and go for an overtake because it was just so wet. So it was a bit in that points, but as the track started to dry up with the laps that went through, it was better at that point at the end of the race to see people going maybe a bit wide to try and get an overtake manoeuvre done. So a lot of things were happening during the race. I really enjoyed watching it, but obviously the domination of Lewis Hamilton, managing them tyres superbly well. Only stopped the once. Took that next set all the way. I think he did like 40 laps on, 40 plus laps on him, along with Sergio Perez again, who's going to get a lot of credit in this video. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton did a fantastic job, lapped his teammate, what more can I say? As people may know, I'm not the biggest Lewis Hamilton fan, but I, seriously have to respect, the man for obviously what he's done this season, and of course, what he's done in his F1 career. 7 world championships, equaling Michael Schumacher, is absolutely incredible, and he's in his prime right now. So signing that contract that we know, it is going to happen with Mercedes. Who knows how many more, championships he can get to, and then the next line, the future racing drivers have now got to equal whatever the record Lewis Hamilton sets when he finishes his career. So, absolutely phenomenal job. I think it was fantastic to see as soon as he got out the car, that Sebastian Vettel, or not even before he got out of the car, that Sebastian Vettel went over to congratulate him. Sergio Perez was there as well to congratulate him, which I thought was fantastic. But to see Seb, who we all know is a huge Michael Schumacher fan, and deep down I think would be a little bit sad that it's his the great Michael has now sort of been equalled in terms of his records. But he went straight over there and congratulated him and said, obviously you're smashing records and making history, and that's exactly what Lewis Hamilton is doing. And I love the fact that Vettel, who's a 4-time world champion himself, went over and congratulated Lewis like that. But yeah, phenomenal, if I can get the word out, job to Lewis Hamilton this weekend. And obviously we've got 2 races left to go for the season, but obviously he'll want to win them. He's a racing driver, he's a race winner. He'll want to win the final 2 races, but you can finally relax now. The constructors and the drivers has been sorted for the season. So yeah, congratulations to Lewis Hamilton. And I've got to mention, there's quite a few drivers in this video to mention. I'm going to quickly go with Lance Stroll first. Really great job over the weekend. I've always had my doubts over Lance Stroll, but this season I think he has stepped up a gear. He has impressed me throughout the season. Yeah, okay, he's made a few blunders here and there, but doesn't every driver. Yeah, he really impressed me. Obviously, getting qualifying, you know, that lap was incredible with the tyres and the conditions. You know, to get that out there and you know, to start on pole for the first time. You know, first Canadian since Jacques Villeneuve. So it was, yeah. It was a great you know, weekend for Lance as well. You know, he'll obviously be disappointed that when he put that last set of intermediates on, that it just sort of fell away. And I think he finished, I'm not 100%, but I think was he finished 8th or 9th? I'm not sure. I'll try and have a look while I'm on the computer at the minute, but. Like I said, obviously he'll be disappointed with that, you know, where he's finished to where he obviously was, leading for such a long time as well, and looked in control, you know, sounded calm on the radio. So, you know, obviously he'll be disappointed in the end that, you know, the tyres sort of gave away, and, you know, he'll obviously be looking at what Sergio Perez did, in the sense that Sergio Perez went all that time, you know, on the one set of tyres. So he'll be thinking, maybe if we'd done that, you know, I might have stayed there, might have got a podium at least. But yeah, you know, in the end he did finish, you know, 9th, 72 seconds away from Lewis Hamilton in the end. When he was leading, like I said, the race for such a long time, it will be a bit disappointing. But I think overall he's got to look at the weekend and you know, he did a fantastic job and should be really proud. And if he can take that on to the next 2 races, and then obviously for next season, you know, we're looking at him as an Aston Martin driver alongside a 4-time world champion of Sebastian Vettel, then, you know, he's got to kick on next year. And I think if he uses what he's done this weekend, and I think in the season overall, you know, we could be seeing a great Lance Stroll driving in F1 for next year. So yeah, credit goes to Lance Stroll. But I've got to give it to his teammate Sergio Perez. The man just knows how to manage tyres. You know, we see other drivers, you know, lose it, as it were. And you know, Sergio Perez just manages to find the grip. I think we saw photos of Lewis Hamilton's tyres after the race where they look more like slicks than intermediates because he'd had them on so long. But you know, Sergio Perez again did an incredible job, and I know Jamie Davis is a huge fan of Sergio Perez's, and how this man is not in a seat for next season yet is. Yeah, it's really bad, isn't it? You know, when you think he also has great backing as well financially, it's surprising that a driver like Sergio Perez hasn't been picked up by another team. But who knows? I mean, look, he beat both Red Bull drivers yesterday. You know, even Max Verstappen. So, you know, personally, I it's difficult because I like Alex Albon, I do, but I think if Red Bull are really going to be pushing for against Mercedes next year, I think they need a driving lineup maybe like Verstappen Perez, and I think the issue would be is if they did get rid of Albon, they're already looking at getting somebody else for AlphaTauri. So where then would you put Alex Albon? So I think it's very difficult, and they're obviously going to be a balancing act for Christian Horner and for Red Bull. But I think, you know, if Sergio Perez is available, I think it's difficult to not choose him, because look what he did yesterday. He just pulled it out of the bag for Racing Point. Incredible performance. You know, he was 31 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton in the end, but I think, you know, he was managing to hold off the rest of the pack then, and obviously his tyres looked worse than Hamilton's. So yeah, 18 points. You know, considering he's obviously had a few races missed this season due to obviously illness and COVID. So yeah, you know, great job by Sergio Perez, and yeah, you know, we've got to see him on the grid next season. I'll be very disappointed if nobody picks him up, but there's not many seats left, so who knows. But yeah, great job by Sergio Perez. And also we've got to mention Sebastian Vettel. Now I know I've already mentioned him in the video previously, and about, you know, how he congratulated Lewis Hamilton and did well, and you know, sort of praised him on you know, what he's been doing, you know, smashing records throughout this season. But Vettel was on the podium for the first time this year. You know, yeah, okay, you know, Charles Leclerc went in for a lunge in the second to last corner, which didn't work, to try and overtake Perez for second. You know, obviously went wide, and Vettel was in the right place at the right time to sort of take that. Was close to actually overtaking Perez as well. Yeah, managed to cross the line ahead of his teammate Leclerc, who obviously was disappointed that he'd messed it up on the second to last corner, trying to get second, and obviously missed out on second and third to finish fourth. But I think even Leclerc was like, you know, saying how congratulations to Sebastian, because he's obviously had a tough season. So to be on the podium was, you know, a sort of great thing for him. And you know, Vettel was great on the radio just after he crossed the line. If you haven't heard it, you know, please do. And I think even Hamilton, you know, in the drivers' briefing after the race, you know, was saying that how well Sebastian Vettel fought yesterday. You know, for a large part of that race, Vettel was keeping Hamilton behind, and it was great, you know, manoeuvring. I mean, there was obviously a little part of me that was thinking, is Sebastian Vettel going to make a mistake? Because sometimes in these conditions, you know, he does sort of make a bit of an error, and you know, we've sort of come used to that, should we say, in the last couple of seasons. But absolutely phenomenal. I can't say that word today. Phenomenal. He was absolutely. So you know, he worked the tyres well. He used the car well. Yeah, okay, it's not the fastest car on the grid, but obviously that helped. You know, yesterday in Turkey, and yeah, I think he's thoroughly deserved. And I think, you know, bringing that confidence into Aston Martin next year is only going to help. A lot of people have been commenting that it's funny that Sebastian gets on the podium when Mattia Binotto isn't there for the first time this season. I'm not going to, you know, go into that at all. I just obviously think it's coincidental, but yeah, you know, great job by both Ferraris really, considering where they started at the beginning of the race. So yeah, great job by them. Also great job by Carlos Sainz to finish 5th. You know, obviously McLaren's had a couple of penalties, and they were starting further down the grid as well. So great job by Sainz. Lando Norris as well was in the top 10, finishing in 8th. So that's an extra 5 points for them. Daniel Ricciardo, after Lance Stroll finishing 9th, Daniel Ricciardo finishes in the top 10 for the extra point, with Esteban Ocon in 11th. Now quickly, the 2 Red Bulls. Yeah, I think as much as we say Max Verstappen is great in the wet, I don't want to say inexperienced, because he is now an experienced Formula 1 driver, but I think some moves he tried in that race, just, I don't know if it was frustration, I don't know if it was, he did feel like he could get in, you know, for a move there, when he went for an overtake. I think one on Perez, I think, when he spun. But yeah, I think, you know, both of them, you know, messed up, I think, in the race. So again, you know, Albon was leading the race, first Thai driver to ever lead a Grand Prix. Was leading the race at one point, but then, you know, spun out and had issues with the tyres, and yeah, it just didn't go for him, and he, you know, finished in 7th place in the end. And I think that's, again, not what he needs to show what he can do in the Red Bull car this year. So his future is still very much in the balance. I mean, yeah, okay, he only finishes a couple of seconds away from his teammate Verstappen, so I suppose you can take that, but you know, probably with Verstappen making a few issues, probably should have capitalised down that and at least finished ahead of him. But you know, we'll see what Christian Horner and what Red Bull decide in terms of the future going forward. But like I said, you know, if Sergio Perez is available and the performances he's putting in, how can you sort of really turn that down? And then obviously we come to the man that I said at the beginning of this season, you know, would challenge Lewis Hamilton, and I think, you know, we look at it now, and how many points is it? 110 or something silly? Yeah, 100. Is it 110? That Valtteri Bottas is now behind Lewis Hamilton, and obviously, like we already know, Hamilton has clinched the World Championship for this season. Yeah, what can I say for Bottas? You know, I think I don't really need to say a lot, because I think he said it yesterday. The team radio, best team radio of the weekend. Could actually be of the season, actually. When Bottas's engineer came on and said, you know, 4 laps still to go, and he said, I wish it was less. I think really from the first couple of laps, he'd wished it was less as well. He says he's had damage when he crashed the second time with Ocon on the first lap, but obviously we don't know that. But yeah, for somebody that obviously is Finnish and you know, does a lot of rallying, really struggled with the tyres, you know, struggled with the car. and like I said, got lapped by his teammate. I think his teammate Lewis Hamilton wasn't very happy at one point because Bottas wasn't really letting him past for blue flags, but I think you can sort of let Bottas off for that because there was quite a gap to them at one point, and then obviously when he did lap him, to be honest, Bottas was struggling anyway. Does he really want to go on the wet side of the track, because he could spin out and maybe even hit his teammate on the way around? So I think Hamilton obviously had to just try and overtake him as best as he could, to be honest. I think once they both got out of the car, they were congratulating. Bottas was congratulating Hamilton, and he was obviously disappointed that the season has finished now in terms of it, because it's only 2 more races and there's nothing really to play for. Of course, you can get the 2 race wins, which is is still great, but in terms of the overall achievement of the Drivers' Championship, there's nothing that Bottas can do now. And to be 110 points behind in a car that's technically the same, I do obviously say that Hamilton has unbelievable reliability compared to Bottas. It's like Bottas's car is so fragile that one little touch, he loses something on the car, and that's race over, to be honest. But is that just the way Bottas drives? I don't know, but obviously he'll be disappointed. I'm disappointed because I was hoping that he would bring more of a fight this year to Hamilton. It was funny because he said at the end of the race, I'll be back next year. It's like, well, you have said that for the last 3 seasons now, Valtteri. And as much as I, love him, I think he's a great character, great, is a great driver on his day. It's very difficult. Especially when Lewis Hamilton is so dominant. So, who knows what we're going to see for next year. Obviously, Bahrain's up this weekend. This next race is coming, is the Bahrain Grand Prix, and obviously is the short circuit. Or is it the short circuit, or is it the long circuit? It might actually be the long circuit. Let me just check that. I think it might be the long circuit. I think it is the long circuit. It says 2. We've got obviously 2 in Bahrain. Yes, so the first one is the main circuit in Bahrain, and then the week later is the long circuit. The huge oval, should I say? It's basically is. There's not many corners to it, to be honest. So that is it. The next race is the actual Bahrain Grand Prix on the 26th to the 29th of November. Obviously, a driver of the day for me, I think obviously Lewis Hamilton was immense, and I can't say otherwise. Sergio Perez, again, I think Sergio Perez is second for me. I have to sort of say that he did an absolutely incredible job with them tyres, but I have to give it to Sebastian Vettel. I think with what he's struggled with this season, he's had issues with the car, obviously getting laid off basically by the team for next season before the season even started. So he's had to deal with a lot of things this year, but I feel like he's in a better place now. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, he knows what's going on in the future now. He knows what he's looking forward to for next season, and then put in an absolute stellar performance to get a podium this weekend just gone. So it was great to be at Turkey. I've always loved the track since watching it back in the day and playing it back on the PlayStation as a kid. One of the best circuits. Really enjoyed it. The weather was great for a spectator to watch. So great race weekend overall, and obviously we're seeing records broken again, and equalled in terms of Lewis Hamilton now being a 7-time Formula 1 Drivers' World Champion. Like I've said, huge result. Congratulations to Lewis Hamilton. Are we going to see the same thing next season? Who knows? It is a longer grid for next year as well. That was obviously announced. I'm not sure if I can sort of get it up now for next season. Let me just have a look. It's very much off the cuff right now. So here is the provisional grid for next season. Now obviously Vietnam has been taken off, and we don't know why. It's sort of not been announced, which is interesting, especially because consider all the money really that's been put into that. Is strange that they haven't even done one race for it. But we are starting the season in March. as usual, around the 21st of March in Melbourne, in Australia, and F1 are looking to try and get as many fans in for next season as possible. It's sort of looking the same way as it usually does in terms of the order. You know, Australia, Bahrain, China. There is a to be confirmed, so I think it's whoever puts in the best bid for Formula One. So we could have a race that we've had this season. Could be Turkey, could be Portimao. I don't think it would be Imola, but you know, it could be one of these tracks that we've come to. Spain, Monaco, Azerbaijan, Canada, France, Austria, UK, Hungary, Belgium, Netherlands. So the Dutch Grand Prix is on the 5th of September, so I think it's further down the grid. I think it was more at the beginning of what it was supposed to be this season, but it's around the September time, so it's between Spa and Monza. So then, yeah, the 12th of September is in Italy. Then we've got Russia, Singapore, Japan, USA, Mexico, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and Abu Dhabi. Now, obviously, there was a lot of talk about Saudi Arabia. I'm not going to get too much into it because I think everybody who's at the top of Formula One has already given their reasons as to why it will be there. I'm not complaining. It's a it's a bigger race calendar for fans to watch. I just hope it's not too mundane. That it's another F1 race weekend this year, this weekend. I hope that wouldn't be the case, and we'll just see. Is 23 Grand Prix going to be too much for the people working in the sport and flying to events? So yeah, only time will tell with that. But like I said, that is the provisional grid. There's only one date left to be confirmed. We'll soon find that out at some point. But yeah, like I said, Bahrain for the next two races. So we'll see what's going on in them. So thank you very much for watching this video. Like I said, congratulations to Lewis Hamilton on being another 7-time world champion alongside Michael Schumacher. And yeah, I will see you all in the next video. Take care. See you soon.